Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Sam, and I am one of the PowerBI enthusiasts just like you. As IELTS says for International English Language Testing System, so English language has almost grabbed the 98% of the whole world's population, excluding some parts of Africa and some parts of the Greenland. IELTS, which has made so much 3.5 trillion US dollars so far for the half of this year, and it has two basically main partners, which is British Council and IDP Australia. Now, this particular two institutions are governing the entire population of this planet to promote their own agenda, which is spreading the English language and testing system. As this present scenario is that they are corrupting this language into each human's mind and not giving up the particular scores as to the people as they want to get into. Now, I have taken this data from IELTS.org, EN US Teaching and Research, and in this I have presently taken 2016 data. However, they have modified it just a couple of weeks ago. But in this, there are two different modules, which is academic and general training. Academic, which is basically for entering into any foreign universities, where the universities get the money from any developing or underdeveloped countries, and general training is basically for immigration. Immigration, which actually helps to boost the economy, and also it helps to reinforce the workforce into any country. So you can see that very well that in this latest data of 2017, 78% of the world's population has actually given the IELTS to get into the developed nations, and as well as the immigration has risen up to 22%. Furthermore, this test is divided into 4 different sections, which are listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And as you can see in detail, that these score bands are very narrow. That means the female and male, two different genders, are into a narrow margin of listening, narrow margin of reading, narrow margin of writing, and narrow margin of speaking, which can overall say that 6.08 and 5.97 is only difference of 0.992 difference between the two different gender score in the test takers' performances. But the problem is, which is currently associated, is that these tests have taken a toll of this much amount of money over the time again and again, which has to be stopped, which has to be results into less propagated. Now, as in the previous Power BI model, I have shown into the academic side, where I have made the frequent countries. Today, I will be taking upon the immigration side, where I will be taking the frequent countries, but in the immigration sector this time. But I will specifically mention about the timeline story, that how a male and female both gets suffered of taking this exam test. Now, for this, I have taken a Power BI visualization tool, which is the timeline storyteller. So therefore, if I take this storyteller in here, and if I stretch it, I can see a blank empty column or blank thing in here. But now, if I take the male test takers ODL into the consideration, so I take writing as one of the part, and as soon as I press the writing, it gives me the timeline storytell. And as the current scenario, as of today, that is August 15th at 7 p.m. and 7 p.m., it is giving me all the different band scores based upon today's time streaming. Now, I am not interested into the flat part, rather I am want to into a radial dial. So if I press the radial dial, I can get a radial visualization for the writing section. What if I use the overall section in here? So you can see this, as soon as I press it, into the radial section using the overall for the male test takers, I can get a complete visualization in here. Now mind it, I am using the female test takers and the male test takers that I am taking for the general training purposes. The female and male, and in this Power BI model, I am separating these two test taker performances based upon this agenda. So if I also use the female test takers as my consideration, just the writing part, and I can see that it is coming into a flat, but I am not, like I said before, I am not at all interested. So I will use the radial section in here. So once I use the radial section, I can see just one of the time gap in here. But as soon as I change my layout into a pasted layout, I can get it into two different sections, which is seen in this particular part. So if I just make it into two different parts, I can see that this has a particular meaning. But if I compare with the overall section of the female test takers, I can very well visualize that my test takers performances for the female and male are being drastically improved into two different parts, and as I go on from chronological to relative between the two different separation, I can get that the 4 months of period of time and the 5 months period of time, people has to get suffered for this test over and over again. So this particularly shows the data that if I continue into this journey for the writing section for female and male test takers, the males are much more getting suffered, whereas the females are not as such, and they have to appear for this test again and again, which should be stopped. Now if I use sequential, that means one test is followed by other, I can see that this timeline story completely changes in favor of both the parties, except that the number is constant at this time for the male and is variable for the female. Also, if I use the speaking module into my consideration, I can see that the overall a new kind of scenario I can face in here, which reflects that how much this person has to go to speaking over and over again for the same amount of time duration that's supposed to be lesser as the time progresses. Or in this case, if the data is failed to restore as because of it is oversaturated. So my point is to say in this particular part is that this scenario is looking pretty much dire circumstances for the people, as because they are using this test over and over again, and they are definitely bounded by their content and by their coming to the immigration part, and they have to understand that this scenario has to stop, so that the IELTS should not make as much money as they should be, because this is not that people do not speak English. This is because people wants to get immigrated and everybody can speak English, but any party should not be gained much more favor than the other without any reason. If you like this channel, please do comment in my section, or I am really looking forward to it and will answer as per my capacity. And thank you for watching this video. Wish you a good day. Bye.